on Sports!
All right, jalapeno fans. Time for another Bitter Man on Sports. You know it's going to snow finally tonight.
So we hear.
Greeted with a little snow in the morning. Before it gets up to a balmy 45 this weekend. You know what is this weekend, by the way? It's the Chuck Cooper Classic at Robert Morris.
Oh, that's right.
3 o'clock on Saturday.
That is right. I see that you have your green sneakers came in, your limited edition.
Oh, let me grab one. Huh?
There you go. Yeah, classic.
That is
classic Chuck Taylors, man.
It's exciting. And inside.
Oh,
there you
Polka dots. Did you recall the statement when they drafted Chuck Cooper and the Philadelphia owner yelled at Walter Brown, don't you know he's a Negro, he said. And I don't give a damn if he's polka dot. So that is in honor of that statement. So
Tartan.
I have to have my Chuck Coopers. The book is almost done.
nice.
It'll be out ready to go by March 25th. So pumped up with that. Our book on Three River Stadium, the final proofs are back that I sent out with any corrections we had, and the next step is to get the book. We'll have the book in hand. Gary, you're going to make a mad dash from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh again?
I certainly will. Certainly will.
We'll have our same little celebration at the Red Ring, and that'll be on sale on April 6th.
Fantastic. Yeah. Some of us are fortunate got to read parts of it because we're involved in it. It's a fantastic book. Fantastic book.
All right. We looking for country? We looking for wrestling names tonight?
Wrestling's been good to us.
Okay.
One of these times we got to come to the show armed with a nickname for the other two. We got to come with that.
All right. Going with the generator.
I think Dave's could be the generator.
I could be the generator.
Dave, the generator finale. I like it.
Yes.
All right. Fletch, you take the first number.
I'll take 3, please.
You are Big Daddy.
Oh,
Big Daddy Fletcher.
I like it.
That's
all right, there.
How about number 8?
Number 8, the grenade.
The grenade.
Gary the grenade.
Kid.
Nice.
That's got a good iteration.
All right, come at me. Pick a number for me.
Number 5 for you, Dave.
Right in the middle.
Superman. Dave Superman.
Well, that's certainly it. That's certainly. So we got the grenade, Superman, and Big Daddy.
Oh, those are some names.
They are.
As I was driving to work this morning, I was a little groggy. I had worked late last night, and it was a long day. And, it was one of those mornings where you, wake up and have to rush to get out to get to work on time. And I click on my radio, and we're listening to the morning show on the fan. And I'm listening to Colin Dunlap say he's about to interview AD. Of course, I'm thinking it's a joke. And this guy comes on, and I'm thinking, wow, he sounds like AB. And then as I'm getting through the interview, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is AB. Fletch, did you catch any of that this morning?
I did. In fact, I called you and left you a message in case you weren't listening to it. It was a little nuts. Clearly he's on his redemption tour. The first stop being the fan.
Right.
A lot of things were said on there that you just had to sort of scratch your head. I mean, one thing he talked about was the whole thing with the Steelers was that he felt like he wasn't getting the respect that he was deserving.
No respect.
And that it was on a personal level more than anything else. He also talked about how when he came on the team that Hines Ward basically snubbed him and didn't, invite him over to his home and do all of that, which I find to be really amusing because if that were truly the case, and you have Juju Smith-Schuster coming up to be your, the next one in the line that you were supposed to mentor, because you were so treated badly, why didn't you go above and beyond and invite Juju into your fold and try to help him out. So the whole thing just was bullshit. He talked about how he loved Ben and blah 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 blah. It was terrible.
Well, I loved as he was telling how he loved everybody, and then why did you stay out the last game? Because I didn't think anybody wanted to win the Super Bowl like I did.
Yeah.
You've apologized, but now you're basically saying you're all individuals, and I was the only team player who sat out.
Of course.
And blew the chance to get in the playoffs because I sat out. Well, I guess he didn't really blow it. They won the game, but
Didn't matter.
That's not a guy who wants to go to a Super Bowl. I'm thinking if you're not going to play.
I just feel for his kids.
Yeah.
Man needs some help.
Yeah,
How many
we're
kids
hoping
do you
they're
have?
all with their mothers and not really near him until I liked how he talked about mental health, but are you just talking about it or are you actually doing something about
Well,
How
that
many,
would be
how many kids does he have?
it? I don't know.
Okay.
But,
more than I do.
Yeah, more than me too, right?
that's how you could win in Jeopardy with the Cliff Clavin answer there. How many children does Antonio Brown
What
have?
is more than I do?
What
I
is
like
more
it.
than me?
Fewer than Sean Kemp, but
And you're not lying. You're not lying when you say
Good.
that. Yeah. You are the Cliff Clavin.
I am.
But gentlemen, I picked a subject for the first show of the week because I am just so stunned and amazed at what my dear Liverpool has done this year. So far, they're 24-0-1 in a season where, I mean, the thought of being undefeated, the thought of losing one game, which they did last year, was mind blowing, and of course, even more mind blowing because they tied so many games. They ended up 1 point out of first place by losing one game in a 38-game season.
that's bizarre.
But they've now won 49 games in a row. They're at a point now where not only is it the greatest 25-game stretch to the start of a season in British history by far, but in European soccer history as well. And I'm sure if you go through, the major leagues worldwide, it's probably the greatest start in the history of soccer. I mean, soccer is not a game that lends itself to an undefeated team.
That's what I was going to ask you. I don't think it is. Just looking at the scores, you don't see that. Look at the standings. You don't see this very often.
No. And the fact that they've won 24 of the 25 games they've played this year in a sport that, again, lends itself to a lot of ties, which is how they lost last year. They had way too many ties. But to me, they are on a collision course, and they only have really one tough game left. They've played all the contenders, and they have a 23-point lead, which is unheard of at this point of the season. They have not won a league title since 1990, the 89-90 season, and that was when it was Division One. That's before the whole Premier League concept was hatched. And so they've never won in 30 years of Premier League football, and now they're doing it in a way that I don't think has ever been duplicated. I mean,
Smashing the whole league, yeah.
well, and if you take it back to last year, they haven't lost in 49 games. So in a year and three quarters,
In
they've lost
professional
one game.
sports, this is professional sports, so
Professional sports, yeah,
almost
I mean,
unheard of. Yeah, almost unheard of in professional.
yeah, exactly. It's happened on occasion in college sports, but
Right.
in professional sports, no. Especially when you're talking, and you're not talking like a two-bit league. You're talking the greatest league in the world. And I just, to me, that it would be the greatest performance. I mean, we're going to talk tonight about some of the others, and I was looking up some of the great seasons in Major League history. I mean, football we can talk about. The Patriots' undefeated season. Of course, they lose the Super Bowl, so what does it matter? I mean, Liverpool is going to win the league title this year. I mean, literally every other team would have to be perfect, and they can still win a third of their games and still win the league. So it's pretty much a done deal. So you got the Patriots, you got the Dolphins, to me, is the greatest NFL season. But again, it's tight. You're talking a 14-game stretch. So,
Well, you're also talking. They were in a very weak division that year.
yeah.
I mean, I think that
They were.
I don't think that 72 team is as great as it's made out to be.
Well, the Jets were
To be
7-7.
sacrilege.
So I mean, that was a bad team. I mean, there are people that argue between the 98 Yankees and the 39. I think the 39 was a greater team than that. But I've always said the 27 Yankees were probably the most powerful team we've seen. 75 Reds. Again, these are all impressive things. And winning 2/3 of your game in baseball is mind-boggling. But is it more mind-boggling than a 49-game win streak in the greatest soccer division in the world?
That's that game you use your feet with, right, Dave? Just
You're gonna not only sing next week, you're gonna sing a solo. Okay, when they clinch this, you're gonna sing a solo.
They play. I saw they play. It was a West Ham this week. So if they win this week, they do clinch it, right? It's over. It's already over for all intents.
It's over. I think they have to win 2 or 3 more games before it's official.
Okay.
But
it is
I mean,
for all
a
intents.
23-point lead, again, in a league where there are a lot of ties, it's
Yeah.
the equivalent of an 8-game lead with what do they have, 13 left. But
Yep.
I mean, it's even more than that when you consider how the format is.
Yep.
But yeah, I know you think your Lakers, you're 70, was it 72 or 73?
71-72.
Yep.
72. I know you believe that to be probably the greatest team of all time.
It
Even though-
certainly would be in my top 5, yes.
Yep. Me too.
Who would be your top 5?
Well, boy, that's tough. Here's a team that Gary, I know you'll appreciate because I don't think they get the love that they should, and that's the 71-72 Canadians. You know,
71, 72, you
they
say?
had 132 points that year.
You don't mean 76, 77.
Yeah. Is it 76, 77?
Yeah, because finish your thought. That's my top of all time, and I'll explain to you why when you look at some of
They
this.
had a record of I believe it was 68-12.
Correct.
And like a 200-plus goal differential. But here's the thing, guys. Think about this team if you put them in a modern stage with the overtime rules. They may not have had many losses at all.
It's true. It's true.
That was a team that just was, the other hockey team I think of is that Oiler team. What was it? The 83-84 team.
Yep. The team that won the first cup. Yep.
Something like 440 regular season goals.
Mm-hmm.
Nearly unbeatable in the playoffs. Something like 15-4 in the playoffs.
Yep.
We mentioned that
Warren Young scored 40 goals.
Pardon me?
Isn't that the year Warren Young scored 40
Yeah,
goals?
he was playing with Lemieux. Playing with Lemieux, I think, or was he?
Yeah, if Warren Young can score 40 goals, then the puck was juiced.
Maybe.
Puck that year, my friends.
Maybe. But, you mentioned that 71-72 Laker game, 33 straight wins. They won 69 games that year. That record stood for 24 years. Average, they beat their opponents by average 12.3 points per game. That's pretty astounding. Let's go pre-Super Bowl too. I know you weren't talking a lot about football, but that 62 Packers team, 13-1, average score 30-11. Again, point differential over 260 points. The 98 Yanks, you mentioned them, 125 wins, most ever. The 39 Yankees, I'm glad you brought them up because they get overlooked. And that's a team that had, 4 guys with 100 RBIs or more on it.
Yeah.
DiMaggio hit, that was his 380 year, wasn't it?
Something like that. Yep.
The 78 Steelers, you have 10 Pro Bowlers, 4 first team. That's pretty impressive as well. And that, the 95-96 Bulls team, when you start out 41-3, that's a pretty good start to your season.
Yeah.
That's a good record, but I've always considered the Lakers a better team. If you put those teams on a court, I think the Lakers would be very much the better team at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, there were two great. Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, I thought they were deeper.
Yeah. I would say that. That's always been my pick for the greatest American sports team of all time.
Yeah, that 87 team, they won 15 and 3 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know, and they were up against pretty damn good competition at that time too.
Yeah.
Did they go 4-4-4 though?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they did not, Dave.
One great season. Yeah. Sixers, one great year.
Barry,
Yeah.
you were Les Habitants.
I'm sorry?
You're Les Habitants.
I mean, is that the segue to me? Because
I believe it is.
I mean, they're not American, but in terms of professional sports,
Neither is Liverpool.
but that's 76-77 Canadian team. I mean, beyond the record of 68-12, and that's right. We didn't have overtime and we didn't have shootouts. But think about a couple things there. The team scored 387 goals, okay, in 80 games. 5 goals a game. They only gave up 171. 2 goals a game. They're outscoring everybody by a goal a period over the course of the whole year. They finished 49 points. 49 points, 24 full victories ahead of the LA Kings in second place. They went through the playoffs. They lost 1 game. They swept a very good Bruins team that could have won some cups themselves 4-0. 5 Hall of Fame forwards, 3 Hall of Fame defensemen, Hall of Fame goalie, Hall of Fame coach, all on the same roster. They talk about the recent Hawks having 6 Hall of Famers, Penguins maybe 4. This team had 9 people behind that bench that were in the Hall of Fame. It's never going to be rivaled. Never going to be rivaled. And I didn't have a chance to look, but I wanted to. I swear I remember, we didn't have the cable that we did then, but got to see a lot of them because we had both Rangers and Islanders cable. We had Flyers cable in the late 70s. Saw a lot of them. I swear in a number of those ties, they were games that they hit posts or were beaten by a goal late. I mean, Chris is right. They could have won 75. I mean, they were that good, and they could beat you physically too a little bit. Larry Robinson, Serge Savard, they had some big wingers, Mark Napier. They could beat you any way you wanted to play. So, I mean, to me, there's no comparison. I think the Oilers were more exciting by far. Gretzky's Oilers with Messier and Anderson, all those guys. But I think if you put those two teams together, I think that Canadiens team would have found a way to slow them down and shut them down. And they would have put Gainey on Gretzky, and I'm not sure he would have done as much, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm looking them up here, and here in a 3-game period, they lose 2 of their games.
Right.
They lose 7-2 to the Blues, 7-3 to the Bruins, and instead of falling backwards, they lose 1 game. They're 33-7-6 at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and they lose 1 game the rest of the year. So
I think they lost 1 game in February and March, I believe, if I recall. Right.
You're talking a streak at that point of, let's see, 33. So you're 27-1-6.
I mean, that is not as impressive as this, Liverpool soccer thing, but the games are very similar. Hockey's a game where it's a lot of close games, a goofy bounce everywhere. You think to lose only 8, and one of the reasons I picked them and a couple of the other teams I would throw out there are they're not pre-expansion, but they're pre-excessive expansion.
Yeah.
By the time you got to 1976, the second 6 had been around 10 years in the NHL.
Yeah.
And you didn't have the WHA. I mean, my point is the expansion's been absorbed, and you're dominating a league that really and truly did not have a lot of bad teams in it at that point. So, and that's my point about, the Bulls did win, 140 and lost maybe 20 something over those 2 years in the late 90s. I think there was 72-10 and 69-13. So they tied the Lakers and they tied the Sixers record in the, Chamberlain Sixers in the late 60s. But, there was expansion in the NBA too with Seattle and Portland and Phoenix and some of those teams in the late 60s. But by the time the Lakers were winning that 33 straight and went 69-13, it had been absorbed for about 4 or 5 years. Now, similar to hockey, the ABA guys weren't in there. If the ABA guys were in there, who knows what the pool would. But I still think that Laker team would have, or maybe they would have won 67. What's the difference? I mean, to win 33 straight in the NBA with that quality of athlete and that fine line too, in those days especially, is pretty remarkable. So, I'd have to pick those two. Baseball, I don't know. I mean, I guess I was thinking about the teams I saw. Clearly, if you read anything about the 27 Yankees with all the boppers they had, I mean, they didn't have a great pitching staff though, and they kind of out-hammered the A's every time they played them in that year. Probably the 39 team's a little bit better, but I mean, the most dominant year I ever saw was that 98 Yankee team. I mean, they just killed everybody from the start of the season. I think they won, 114?
14.
Yeah, 125 total.
Yeah, and they got in the playoffs, and by the time they got the World Series, I think they swept San Diego pretty damn easily, didn't they, in the World Series? I mean, it wasn't even a contest that year, and everything was clicking. So, I mean, of the teams I saw, I mean, I think they were the most dominant-looking team baseball-wise. I think the Reds were probably the best team, that 76 team that went 108 and 54, although they didn't have a great pitching staff either. But, they started out like a house on fire. They blew everybody away. I think the Dodgers probably won 88 or 90 and still finished 20 plus, almost 20 games behind. So, I'd probably pick the 98 Yankees as far as teams I saw.
Because in 70, I think, and I'm not saying they were, anything but a great team, because they were. But the 75 Reds team is, to me, the most overblown team in the 70s, because that 70 Orioles team was the greatest team of the decade.
Well,
71 could have been even better, but they lost.
Look at, 70, you had 3 20-game winners. 71, you had 4 20-game winners. They won their last 11 games of the regular season. The first 3, they swept the Twins. That's a pretty good Twins team that they swept.
Yep.
Or A's team, rather, in 71 that they swept.
Yep.
And then they win the first 2 World Series games. So they win, 17 games in a row, something like that?
Oh, yeah.
15 in a row before going down to the Pirates.
Losing 4 or 5.
I mean, that's when I started watching a game. I mean, I remember my dad always used to say, and then I was fortunate growing up in the East, because Baltimore is actually closer to Harrisburg, where I grew up, than Philadelphia is. And you could get a ticket, even though those teams were great, even in the mid-'70s, late '70s, you could get a ticket right behind the dugouts just walking up the day of the game. It was amazing. They really didn't draw that well. But that 69, 70, 71 team, those are my first big memories of baseball, watching a game regularly, talking about a lot with my dad, my brother, and the kids in my neighborhood. Yeah, every one of those. I think the worst team was 71. I think they won 101 or 2. The other one won 109, I think, in 69. I think in 70 won 108.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, and again, this is expansion, but it's the early expansion. It's not like the explosion that we had in the 90s with all the franchises and all the money. And, they were so dominant. I mean, the fact that they only won one of those World Series is amazing in itself. But, World Series is different than over the course of the season. I mean, the Cubs had some great years around the turn of the century, 06, 07, and 09. That's about the only thing. And maybe the Yankees, a couple different eras, 30s, 50s. Nobody else really comes close to that Oriole 3-year period when you look at it. So, they got to be considered in there too. And
I mean, you were still dealing with very lopsided, great teams, bad teams in the first century.
Yep, you were.
I would tend to think. I mean, the Orioles it was a more balanced game at that point.
It definitely was.
It was. The 70s, I think, was the most balanced decade for me in baseball.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
You had equally good hitting, equally good pitching.
Yep.
We haven't talked about the best record in NBA history, the Golden State Warriors at 73-9. You know why we didn't talk about them?
No.
Because they lost to the Cavaliers.
Oh, yeah, that's true. The year they won all the games, they did lose, right? But it went 73. It went 73, right?
It's like comparing Adam Richman to this guy who takes his place in Man versus Food. Adam Richman, when he lost, there was very little left on the plate, correct? He went over, so I looked it up on Wikipedia, won over 60% of his challenges, which to me is mind-boggling.
Yeah, he's mind-boggling. You see what kind of stuff he was eating. Yeah.
Dead man walking.
He's on an egg roll challenge right now to eat 12 of these huge egg rolls. There's 6 left on the plate.
You better pace himself.
Well, we're not. I mean, we can talk about Richmond if we bring him into the equation of greatest individual performances.
Yeah.
He's a Joey Chestnut of Man v. Food.
Yeah.
This guy's a fool.
I don't know. People are crazy. Wouldn't want to be him or the hot dog eater.
No.
Like Chris.
Another team probably that deserves to be spoken about is that 99 Rams team. I mean, you think of that as the greatest turf, but, they had a pretty damn good defense as well. And I don't know which 49er team I would pick, the 84 team, maybe the first to win 18 games, or that 89 team. That 89 team just barreled through the playoffs. They outscored their opponents by 100 points in the playoffs that year. That's just insane.
It is. I mean, I've always thought if I'm going to rate one of the 49er teams, I always went with the 84 team, the 18-win team, because I thought they were in their prime at that point. They did barrel through in 89.
They were beautiful to watch. They offensively and like just the way they played. They that Bears and Giants back-to-back wins in 85 and 86 were fun to watch because they just beat you into submission. Those defenses just beat you into submission. They had big running backs and Bavaro. But the 49ers were one of the prettiest. That might be the prettiest football.
49ers were well balanced. I mean, if you look at Chicago had a good offense. They didn't have a great offense.
No.
But they didn't need one. I mean, that defense was phenomenal. But again, with that kind of talent, to only win one Super Bowl that's the equivalent of what the Orioles did in the early 70s.
It is. And Giants too. I thought the Giants were every bit as dominant the next year. Didn't get quite the same press, but they didn't win many either.
Right.
So, but I mean, the 49ers were just pretty to watch. Like the Bears and Giants those were exciting years in football to me, but they would just beat you into submission, where the 49ers were just pretty to watch, man, with the passing game and the running game and how they used everybody. I mean, honestly, the teams in this past Super Bowl reminded me a little bit of the way the 49ers played.
I agree.
Everybody,
And I thought this 49ers, I mean, obviously Garoppolo was no Joe Montana, but it was a well-rounded offense.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I told Fletch, and I think I even texted out to him, I thought they were going to come out, score, and win relatively easily. And it looked like that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
You got to remember to run the ball, Dave,
Well, again.
When you can, and they can. Yeah, it was a little
run the ball.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I loved about this team was they're bringing that back into vogue. And I love that power running game.
I think if you're using those guys that way and you're using the tight end, it just makes your wideouts and everything that much more effective. And it gives your quarterback more time, too.
How do you let the best receiver on the team that wide open on a 3rd and 15?
Well, I mean, here's the other thing. When that play was overturned, I thought they were done. I thought that was it. But they came out and they made the big play. So
they did.
Anybody who questions that he shouldn't be the MVP doesn't understand football.
I agree.
Yeah, it was a fun game. That was a fun.
It was. I kind of had a feeling it would be. Thought it'd be a little more points than it was, but it was a good one, an entertaining one.
And let me tell you, I'm not a salsa fan, but this man makes such an incredible salsa that I can't get enough of it.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the halftime show. I thought you were going to go to the halftime show.
No, I didn't know what. I never heard of this Shakiki or whatever her name was. I didn't know what to expect.
Oh,
Dave, we do have to get you out of the archives a little bit.
You got to get me out of there, but. I'm listening the next day. These talk shows are being dominated by the halftime show, which, first of all, irritates me because I want to hear football talk.
That's asinine to me too. Yeah.
And at the second place, if you don't want your child watching it, then take them out of the damn room.
Well, that's my view. That's right.
Right. I want to see J-Lo humping a pole. Okay, I want to see that. And then in a mad twist of fate, bring her daughter out to sing right after. Wait a minute, honey, I have to go hump the pole first. Then you can come out know,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I turned to Viv. She doesn't have a poll. I don't know if Viv was upset because, she couldn't do that in front of her daughter. But, what did you expect? Why would you be on? This is what apparently Shakiki and J-Lo do.
Right, that's part of the talent. That's right. So
What did you expect? I wasn't stunned by it. I wasn't offended.
no, but I mean, it's funny. There is more talk about that stuff and the ads sometimes than the game itself. Even on a lot of the sports talk shows, it's just bizarre.
Fletcher was crying at the ads. All he did was want to come, and his son Dylan, all they wanted to do was come and laugh at the commercials. And you're crying. I mean, I don't want to be heartless, but if anything ever happens to Viv, I'm not going to go to Google to have him console me.
That was bizarre. It was a couple bizarre ones. I guess you're running out of creativity if you got to do it every year, I guess. But yeah, that one was a strange one. I agree. Yeah.
I don't agree because the man was crying. Chris was weeping his eyes out at that point.
Oh, I was the whole thing of privacy concerns had me going on that one.
Well, I mean, how about the ones where dual? Like, was it Tide? Tide did like 2 dual ones. They did it with, something like 2 products on the same ad. I hadn't seen that.
Nice. That was a good ad.
I had never seen that before.
Yeah.
I got on and I said, Google, remind me of when I enjoyed watching J-Lo hump a pole, and Google brought it up.
It came right back on. It rolled right back.
So, I guess there's that.
Where was A-Rod? I thought he would have showed up out there and posed a little bit with one of his
I expected
ridiculous.
them to bring out a cake and A-Rod popping out of it. But
Good game, though, for a change.
It was a good game.
Good game, good ad for the NFL for a change. Really was. With all the NFL's issues it's had at times, it was it was a good game, well played. Wasn't any cheap shit in it. It was well played by both teams.
And even though I've heard lots of San Francisco whining about the refereeing, I thought the refereeing was fine.
I just think the replays are made. It's so tentative all around, whether it's any of the sports. Makes it too tentative. That's
what do you want to do, Fletch, if you want to win a game like that with a 10-point lead?
You pound the ball, Dave. You run.
What do you do when you're up 28-3 against the New England Patriots?
You run the ball.
You run the ball.
I mean, you got 50 years of film to watch here for these Super Bowls, and if you look back, 35 of them, that's been often the case when you get the lead. If you can run the ball, you do it. So it's true.
John Lynch came down on the field like the Atlanta owner, wanting to be on the field to celebrate.
Yeah.
You don't do it with. I mean, this kid is about to be mentioned as a GOAT. Not yet. A few years left, but I'm so. How do you come back 3 times down 10 points or more in the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
great quarterback that does it.
You can tell by looking at him. Like, nothing phases the kid. I mean, like, he's pretty. I mean, the father played Major League Baseball, so he's been around professional sports a lot, I'm sure, and that's part of it. But nothing phases the guy. I mean, that is true. I mean, he came back from that injury in the regular season. Didn't look like he missed it down. So, I mean, he's a pretty special talent.
It was nice to see Andy Reid get the victory too.
I mean, look, I was a big criticizer of him here, and I think he was one of the most smug, obnoxious people in the press and stuff here when he was here. Not answering anything and kind of sneering at you like you're stupid. But you look at the guy's resume now over about a 20-year period. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah.
He's won in 2 places year after year. I think he's only got one. He's kind of like Tomlin. I think he's only got 1 or 2 losing seasons.
Well, like Harold Baines, if you put Bill Cowher in the Hall of Fame, you've opened up Pandora's box for a lot of other coaches.
Yeah. But you got to look at Cowher. The resume has to include his analyst work, or else I don't think he gets it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the same with Jimmy Johnson too. I think it's a football career type thing, and even with John Madden. I mean, Madden, great coach, no question about it. But without his broadcast, does he get into the Hall of Fame? I don't think so.
No, I think the light of attention. You've mentioned that before, Chris, and I think you're right on the light of attention because of they're on TV after having pretty good careers.
Well, it's not even so much the attention; it's the fact that they're good at what they do.
I mean, I'm not suggesting they're not. I agree with you. They are very good. I mean, they're very good. But I think the fact that they're doing that after what was a relatively short career in a lot of cases, even Madden's, without a ton of winning. I mean, I do think it. I think it helps.
Well,
I think
and
it's.
you know what? Jimmy Johnson had to deal with Jerry Jones, and to win under a Jerry Jones regime, I mean, tells me he's a coach beyond. Jerry Jones shows just, if you have a lot of money, you can be an ass and destroy a football team.
Yep.
Although the commercial was funny.
It was.
It was. It was. I mean, nobody's won for Jones since. Nobody's won for Jones since. So.
Favorite
He
commercial.
won the one, but it was basically Jimmy Johnson's team, is what they'll tell you. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's a tough situation to coexist in.
It is. It is. But what was your favorite commercial on the Super Bowl?
That was the Google one, obviously.
I'm just too damn sensitive.
Oh,
He's Mr. Sensitivity.
I'm trying to remember. My mind is like a sieve for stuff like that. Like I can remember what a batting average was of somebody in 1895, but I'm trying to remember which one would have been my favorite one.
Hurry up. Your time's running out, man. Come on.
Yeah, you're gonna have to move on because isn't that awful? I guess I'm starting to show
man.
signs of aging.
Just out of love for Bill Murray, that
the G.
Groundhog Day thing to me was the
Yeah, that was a good one.
greatest.
That
That
was
was a good one.
I know you're a sensitive guy, and I'm sorry for not being sensitive about that Google, but it doesn't belong on the Super Bowl. I'm going to laugh on Super Bowl Sunday when I'm not watching the game. But we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about more stuff. And one of it's going to be the Dukes, okay?
All righty.
All right.
All right.